Hello and welcome back to Playtime with Rufus, a spiritual and metaphysical podcast unlike any other. My name is Mario and I'm so glad you've joined us again. After last episode's deep dive into neutral polarization, we return to the original agenda of our project today and focus on the first of the 4 aspects Rufus gave us for realigning with the original vision of our Earthian playtime. Being a player while knowing you are more than a player. In this context, Rufus, who is channeled through my dear and gifted friend Emily, explains why the veil of forgetting is so central to our life on Earth and introduces the one asset that pierces a hole in that veil, our intuition. According to Rufus, it is the bridge between the non-incarnated soul and its incarnated human self. And the core topic of this episode. Rufus helps us understand it as our inner compass, the quiet, guiding voice of our greater self that keeps us aligned with who we truly are and with what we set out to experience and accomplish in our incarnation. We learn about the importance of listening to its subtle nudges and why children often model this intuitive alignment naturally. We also dive into the role of food in the broader sense. So not just physical nourishment, but also what we watch, listen to, and absorb energetically. Rufus reveals how every form of input codes us and why being consciously aware of this can protect us from manipulation while empowering us to recode ourselves intentionally. The discussion then moves into the role and power of intention, meditation, and playful training exercises, all ways to strengthen our intuitive connection. This is also a very special episode because a new aspect of Rufus makes its first appearance. The homie. We've come to call it that because of its more relaxed, down-to-earth way of speaking and demeanor, compared to the rather serious father aspect we started out with, and the very soft and gentle mother aspect that has been joining in since episode 2. As you'll hear, the homie brings a very casual, approachable energy to the conversation, while still sharing profound wisdom. If you've ever wondered how to tell the difference between the mind's chatter and your soul's guidance, and if you want to know how to protect your coding as the highly porous being you are in human form, this episode offers both clarity and practical tools, all shared with the wit and warmth you've come to know from Rufus. Also, my dear friend Kai is joining us again for this one and asking some excellent questions. So buckle up, enjoy the ride. This is episode 5 of Playtime with Rufus, where higher wisdom meets human curiosity. And I would now like to ask Rufus to integrate themselves into the body so we can speak to each other again. May I speak to Rufus again, please? You're here with us?
Yes, we're getting settled.
Let us know when you're fully integrated.
Should be enough to start.
Wonderful. Welcome back, Rufus. Thank you for being with us again.
Hello.
And you probably know that we have Kai with us today.
Yes, we can sense.
Today is session number 5. Time is flying. I remember when we started this project not so long ago. And today we're diving back into the original agenda of the project. To summarize what we've done so far, we wanted to talk about what it means to be human on this planet in order to help humans understand the complexity of their experience and correct the distorted vision of what it means to be a human on Earth. We already covered the original vision, the undistorted original vision. We covered what caused the distortion. And then we wanted to talk about how to realign with that original vision. You gave us 4 main aspects. And today we're going to talk about the first one, which is being a player while or but knowing that you're more than a player. Do you remember this?
Yes, clearly.
Very good. I think this will be a wonderful topic for today. And I would like to allow you to begin wherever you prefer.
Okay. Touching base on the first part, as you call it, of being a player while being also an incarnated soul. Is it first chapter per se? Is it the first of the four that you mentioned?
Yes.
And we are talking about how to realign quote marks with your inner soul as a human player. Are we correct?
Yes.
All right. Where should we start? Because this is quite a large topic.
Well, you mentioned in an earlier session that the forgetting was a very important part of the game
Yeah.
because it allowed a certain type of experience.
Yes. It deepens the experience a player may have as a human being. If this veil was not existent, it would be way easier to steer the wheel on how to play the game. The fact that this veil is put into place is actually make it more difficult for the soul to really steer this game. And one has to adapt and experience and experiment with the given playtime and the circumstances attached to the soul venue in terms of surroundings and families and geographic location and all the different aspects that we believe were already mentioned in prior discussions. So this veil indeed is of importance. Now, even if the veil is in play, we also mentioned that there was always a continuous connection between the players per se and their inner self, as we may call it. So, this connection, that is an intuitive connection to start with, is always present in the player, no matter what player we are talking about. Each and every one of them has that access that is granted. But for some players, the veil is such an amazing trick that it is actually wearing heavily on them. And this access to their inner self is, we can say, maybe a little more clogged than for others. And therefore, in order to remember it and access it fairly easily, they will have to tune up, as we say, or maybe reach in order to find a frequency that will open this connection and deepen it so they can hear themselves quite loudly, if that makes sense.
It does.
In order to do this, we believe we already mentioned it, but there are so many different layers and aspects of nourishment that will take place and that will have a heavy impact on the given player. So we could mention ways that will apply to all somehow, but each recipe and each journey will have to be independently taken or considerate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So the very first part, in order to be able to reconnect or connect on a deeper level with The player intuition will be to acknowledge this intuition to start with. Sometimes it comes very easily. Sometimes it comes afterwards. Let's say it will happen for players to go about their days, and at one point something comes up, and the player will say to himself or herself, depending on the vehicle chosen, but the player will say, "Oh, I had a feeling this would happen," or "Oh, I wish I listened to myself," or "I knew this was gonna happen this way." Well, when one player is thinking this way, it means their intuition were the first talking. The fact that they are able to say those words means somehow they recognize that part of them was already trying to steer them in a direction. This is what they need to reinforce daily, being mindful of those little voices, as we may call it, or those intuitive feelings that one may have, will be able to help them in the deepening of their inner self connection, or connection to all, as we may say as well. So that would be a good first step. Recognize that there is a part of them that is speaking first, and trained in order to listen more to that part of them on every subject. It doesn't only apply on actions, it also applies on philosophy, on direction that one may take in his life. It's really a large topic, but the same key is needed in all of it. Do you see what we are talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Then that will be definitely the startup point for pretty much everything. Kids are very good at this because they are very intuitive. The rational part of them, the critical part of them, is not really crafted yet, or at least not 100% in place. Therefore, it makes them very good subject in terms of functioning intuitively and being able to follow their guts, as you may say. That would be a very good place to start in terms of realignment to self. It's also, how we can say that, it's also very difficult because for some players that are deeply involved in the veil and deeply involved in this game, this might sound not tangible enough. This might sound very difficult because they would not recognize that part of them, that intuition, as real quote marks or as present. They will just recognize it as being an afterthought because they quote marks maybe regretted the decision or action or choice they would have made. So for those players, this might take time to be able to really recognize and deepen this intuition. But if they are surrounded with kids, it is easy to remind them that at one point in their life, they were like those kids and they were able to tap into that intuition and rely on it. This would be a good example to give them if they are reluctant to accept the idea of even having an intuition that will be a correct, quote marks, guide for them. That would be the first, let's say, how we can say, we are looking for a word to take into realignment. Then everything that you will absorb, and we mentioned that before, every nourishment, food that will be put into your bodies, and we are mentioning bodies as a plural, not just a physical one. Every food that one may take or intake, this will be, let's say, the second more evident or more important way to really be able to reconnect and deepen that connection to self. So the food that we mentioned will be actually what you ingest, what you hear, listen to, what you're focusing on, what you are watching, what you are sharing, what you are feeling. This is the type of food we are mentioning, because depending on the food, it would actually feed different layers of your. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
So definitely this will be needed to emphasize and reinforce if you want to help one reconnect. Food is the number 2 after intuition, because this is what will maintain the strength of that intuition. This is what will actually sustain it and what will help you really connect or reconnect or strengthen that link with part of self that is not the player per se in the game, but that is the one deciding to come play in the playtime.
May I ask?
Yeah,
Let me know when is a good time to ask.
anytime is a good time.
Okay, because I don't want to interrupt your flow.
No, you are right.
Okay, could you please go a bit deeper into how the food we take in influences our alignment with the greater self?
Yes, yes, we would, because it would actually be a remindment of your personal vibration. Let's say everything in this playtime is made of vibration. We need to be in agreement with this statement to go further. Do you understand that statement? The tangible, the non-tangible, everything, every aspect of this game is designed to vibrate. So when we are talking about food intake, if we are basing ourselves on nourishment, as in food for the physical body, in terms of nutrition, you will have to be mindful on what type of nutrition your body is needing. We mentioned it before, it will be very different in function of the player. There's not one way to take, let's say, the right food. There are multiple ways, or there are multiple players having different vibrations and therefore needing different type of diet, as we may say. And in fact, the exact same players at different time of their experience will be also needed different type of food intake, because since they will vibrate at different levels throughout their journey, the food also will have to be adjusted. So vibration wise, when you are intaking nutriment, it would feed parts of your body. It would help digesting faster or better or easier. It will help your blood cell. It will help your fluid circulating better. It will help your muscle to get oxygen better. It will help your body to basically function better if you are taking the correct food that is actually needed at the time. It will be the same for everything you are watching. senses of your body are designed to be a portal into nourishment vibration wise, as well as a portal of informations. So if you are taking your eyes, for instance, you will be watching stuff or watching things or watching living beings or watching situations, and your eyes will then create codes that your body with an S would understand at different level. Some codes will be carried by feelings. Some codes will be carried by aesthetic. Some codes will be carried by knowledge. Some codes will be carried by any type of stuff. It really doesn't matter. But everything that your eyes will see will be coding yourself. It will be imprinted somehow. So it will steer and mix and shift if needed your vibrational aspect as well. Do you understand what we are saying?
Yes, and I have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to interject this process with the conscious mind? For example, watching something and making sure that certain codes are not being created.
Yes, it would. If you are conscious of the fact that what you're watching is actually coding, then your own conscious could totally interfere with how you are coding yourself, because you can choose to rationalize, to apply your critic sense of it, or to just basically take it with your full intuition, and consciously you will decide how the codes will affect you.
Can you give an example? For example, watching something in which violence occurs, how would one go about protecting themselves from receiving the codes connected to the violence?
Yes. Well, you could actually receive it so many different ways. Let's say if you identify yourself with one of the protagonists in the scene you are watching that includes violence, you would take it not only with your eyes, but your eyes will translate it into feelings, because you will associate yourself with one of the protagonists in that scene. Therefore, it will code in specific ways, because you will receive or perpetuate that violence if you decide to be one of the other protagonists. But basically, you would take part of a scene which you are not part of to start with. So this way, you'll be coded differently. If you are just watching it without consciously associating yourself to any of it, it would code yourself differently as well, because you are not receiving nor giving the violence. You are not associating yourself to this. You are just watching. Now, you can emphasize, you can be empathic too with one of the protagonists or the other. This will also code differently, because it will be a different degree of feeling it. The first degree, you will take it for yourself by associating completely. It will be almost like a first-hand experience. So the code will be written a certain way. If you are empathic, that means you are able to consciously know you're not the one receiving nor giving the action, but you can sympathize with what is taking place. You will consciously code yourself slightly differently, because you're now not first-hand receiver or giver of violence. You can also watch that scene with no feelings at all, just taking it being, oh, this is actually a violent scene, but this doesn't concern me at all. I am not part of it. I don't emphasize or sympathize with any of it. I am just watching this, and it will code yourself differently, because consciously you decided to not involve at all and just take it as a simple observation, factual situation. So the code will be imprinted differently. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yes.
Okay, so this could go on and on and on, because you could also decided that you choose to take side. Maybe you decided to consciously take side for the giver or the receiver of that violent scene. Maybe you will identify and justify the action of one of the protagonists. And consciously, it would code differently because now you're intellectually analyzing the situation. You're putting it into context with a specific background, not just feelings, not just facts. You are elaborating what could have led to that situation. So therefore, consciously, your different involvements now are coding yourself differently because a different aspect of you is involved in the analyzing of that scene. We hope we are explaining all right.
Yes, you are.
So you see, there are different ways of receiving or observing or just watching one scene. And depending on how you choose consciously to interact with that scene through your watching, it would code differently because it would resonate and vibrate at a different level inside of your different body's layer.
So awareness is the key here.
Yes, awareness is the key. Degrees of awareness is the key. Feelings are intellectualizing or other dimension that you could put behind those eyes, not just seeing the scene with your eyes, but seeing the scene with your eyes, with your heart, with your mind, with all your own background, with your visionary self, because you're able to see their background, talking about the protagonist. So there are already multiple layers in one scene that you are observing through your eyes.
Is this process of coding known to those or some of those who produce the content that is being consumed?
In what sense?
That,
Are you talking about movies, for
yes,
example? Yeah.
yes.
While you always will have part of the players that will be conscious of the power of the senses, meaning one creating visual content could be perfectly aware of the value of the impact the content put into a visual manner will have on the player. But it could be just in terms of how powerful this will be to be received, not in terms of how powerful this will be to be imprinted and coded into the one watching it. So you will have some visual artists that would just put content out there in order to serve the eyes and please the watcher and just have them leave an experience, but without really understanding that it is actually coding or imprinting or somehow shifting their, let's say, being material. But of course, you will have definitely some players that are well aware of how the coding works and that would use visual arts to, let's say, plant seeds on certain aspects or messages, or we could talk maybe about manipulations if you want, and put some visual content in service of their agenda. So yes, you would have both. Some will not be completely aware of the power their arts will have and the impact it will have on the watcher, but some will definitely know it and use it to their advantage. This is how you can actually recode the population, is one way to do it, or at least it is one tool to do it. Senses are really, really powerful. So watching, hearing, tasting, smelling, all this, touching would definitely be, let's say, a portal to recode a human being player.
What goal could be achieved by this? And maybe let's go into different directions here. Like, what is the effect of this coding? What will it result in?
This is going to be the same effect as any manipulation per se. You are trying to press or push a message or a behavior or your way, quote marks, on somebody. You're just doing it non explicitly. So you are actually deceiving the person because they are not aware they are being groomed, if we may use that word. So this is actually very smart way to not brainwash, but to we're trying to look for a word. We believe that it's groomed. We believe this word will be okay. You are grooming some player in a way you would like to steer them or take them in the direction you would like them to take. You are actually starting to program themselves in order to fit your narrative. Does that make sense?
It does.
Let's say if you would like the violence to be accepted as a norm, per se, you could create a lot of visual content that use violence and you would feed them to a lot of players, preferably starting at a young age, and you would feed them this content that would become more and more accepted and more normal and more common, to the point that if this content was to be found outside your visual arts, then they would not be surprised or they would not be shocked. Do you understand what we're trying to say?
Yes.
Okay, so you see, now if you put more and more violence in arts, what you call movies, series, animes, all visual stuff, pictures, paintings, it doesn't matter. Then when the person who is watching it, since they are being recoded, when they now go about their ordinary life outside of watching an art, but they are witnessing the same type of scenes, then they will be familiar to it and it would not be shocking and it will be accepted because it would have become a normality to them because they will be recoded somehow to accept this as something familiar. Do you see how it could be used?
I see. Yes.
And this is actually applicable for everything. We are using violent example, but this could be applicable to pretty much everything because once again, senses are very important for human players as it can recode the way they vibrate and therefore the way they are playing that game.
So the end result is a change in vibration.
Yes, it's always the end result. Everything you will experience, everything you will go through this playtime will always have to deal with vibrations. Well, people call it energy as well, but it's really a matter of frequency and measurement and frequency, like vibrations. This is really the same, but everything you will experience in that playtime will have to deal with this because this entire playtime is built on it, is based on it, is designed on it. This is the common aspect in everything existing in that playtime. And we can extend that to pretty much everything existing, period.
What intention would an entity have that deliberately creates, let's say, visual content that consists of information like violence that results in a change of vibration? Why would an entity do that deliberately? How would they benefit from it?
Well, if an entity decided that in order to get their goals reached, they needed violence to be accepted and normalized because at one point maybe they will have to use it or they will have to gather players to participate in that type of behavior in order to serve their purpose, then their interest will be in making it accepted by a larger scale of players. So we do believe that if you are wanting to recode players using violence to make this acceptable, is because in your own agenda, at one point, violence will be a tool that you choose to use in order to reach your goal or get you closer to it. So the one doing this will be pretty much knowing that at one point they will have to use that, and therefore they would need a larger group of people to be familiar with this. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they are building tools the same way this could be applicable to anything. So the same way you could recode someone, let's say, who is depressed, someone who is feeling low, vibrating on the low level. You could easily recode them through visual arts as well, using scene of colorful things, joyful happiness, feelings that are of exhilaration, that are of higher vibration. You could definitely recode those as well and make them used to those type of scene, so they would recognize them more and more in their everyday life when they are not dealing with visual arts, but with their actual life. And it would now emphasize those scenes for them when they see or witness them, which would actually recode them to vibrate higher. So this could be a tool as well for someone that has a goal that would need more players being in tune with their joyful side and higher frequency. So it is applicable in many, many aspects.
How
The,
would,
re-
yes, please continue.
the recoding is actually applicable for pretty much everything that is desired. And we are talking now about beings with the agenda of voluntarily recoding others. But we could also apply that to self. One being could be applying this to him or herself in order to recode their own self. It doesn't have to be used only to manipulate others. It can be used to manipulate self as well.
Thank you so much for this very interesting information.
Yes, you're welcome. And
Thank you
this is
for,
the eyes. You have 5 senses minimum. So this is actually expandable. And then more than those senses, you also have your energy senses that are not the physical ones, but that could actually perceive energies. Because remember, we are talking about multiple bodies. So therefore, you are a porous being and you are very easy to influence if the right food is intentionally chosen, whether it's for yourself or others, in order to take you into one specific direction, in order to reprogram you or recode you to fit one specific narrative. Do you understand?
yes,
So let's say players who are not conscious of that, it will be more difficult to them in order to apply it to themselves or others. But players that are fully aware of this, it will be fairly easy for them to either manipulate others for their own agenda or to use as self-remaniment.
I would say that one of our main intentions with this material is to help others become aware of these mechanisms.
Good. That's a good idea. We like this idea a lot because there is one key here. When you are aware that you are a porous being and that you can absorb from every aspect and that you can be recoded continuously, then you can protect yourself somehow from what you recognize as being manipulation of others and protect your own coding and not accepting the rewriting. Or you can also choose for yourself to recode your own self if you are not pleased with where you're at the moment. and you are trying to manipulate your own self in order to reach your own agenda. We hope we are explaining correctly.
I believe you are.
Good.
So in the end, every player has complete control and power over what they're consuming.
Yes, if they are aware of this. If they are not, they are basically giving this power to others who are aware for them.
Let's bring this back to the intuition, and
Yes.
please explain what role intuition plays in consuming. What messages does our intuition give us regarding the food or the visual content or the energetic food we consume?
Intuition will be your compass to self-protection and self-potential and self-blossoming, if we may say. Intuition is basically your true self speaking, or your team gathering as well, in order to enhance your true self speaking, because it's not loud enough. So basically, intuition will be the access you have to the unseen world, including you, when you're not playing this playtime. So intuition in terms of nourishment and food will be your compass if you are able to follow and hear it and recognize it in the first place. Let's say somebody is in tune with his intuition or her intuition, depending on the vehicle chosen. Then they will be presented some visual food, some nourishment food, like a taste food, some hearing material, whatever type of food you want to introduce yourself to. Intuitively, they would know if it resonates with them at the moment they are giving the opportunity to ingest or absorb it. Let's say we are at a festival and you are presented with specific music and it resonates with you, your intuition will be telling you this is good for you. Then you can stay and tag the music in, because somehow it would reinforce what you're trying to code yourself with. Now, if the reverse happened, if your intuition is making you feel like it doesn't feel right, like this music is making you not so good, something doesn't resonate, something inside you is letting you know that this is not for you. If you force yourself to stay, you will be actually recoding yourself in a way that you were not intentionally wanted to recode. But if you choose to leave at that time, then you will be protecting your codes. Does that make sense to you?
It does.
This is exactly the same for everything you are absorbing. And because of the way you are designed in that playtime, you are absorbing everything from everywhere, from everyone, at every moment of this game. This is so important. This is why we also want to emphasize that everything is connected, because everything is influencing one another. Everything is working together to code and recode and decode. This is an infinite manipulation. This is really important to understand. You cannot protect yourself in a way that you are blocking yourself from taking in what's given to you. You will have to absorb anyway. So you cannot prevent yourself from absorbing, from feeding yourself. This is impossible. But you can consciously choose to accept taking in or remove yourself from a situation in order to protect yourself, because you do not feel like taking what's being given. Does that make sense?
It does. A question.
Yes.
What would be the best thing player could do if physical removal is not possible?
Then you will have to consciously tell yourself that you refuse what's being given to you at this moment. You choose not to take it as a recording, and you are just protecting yourself somehow because consciously you have the intention of not taking the manipulation that is taking place. This is very tricky, and this is a tool that is being used marvelously by so many players because of the way you are and because of the fact that you are actually taking in everything. If you do not have consciously the intention of protecting yourself by deciding, nope, this I recognize for what it is. I recognize this is some type of food that is being served to me right now. But I decide that I will not take that food for what it is. I could stay in this situation. I could handle being around that type of food. But because I recognize it and I recognize that it's trying to code myself, I claim back my power and I decide that I will not use the code. It is also the same time of protection. We believe we mentioned this to you, Mario. We had a conversation about this one time, but we cannot recall which conversation it was. But we were talking about protection on how to protect yourself if you needed to do protection ritual or stuff like that. Are we correct? So do we stand corrected?
Yes.
Had that conversation once, we believe.
Yes.
And we mentioned to you that you could use protection ritual if you were feeling like you do need protection ritual, but you also didn't have to if you felt like you didn't have to because you were already protected. So this is exactly the same situation. Consciously, you recognize that you're at risk. If you decide that you're at risk and if you stay physically in that situation, you would be at risk and you would be taking the codes. But if you decide and recognize I'm in this situation, they are trying to put me at risk serving me this food. But I know that my intention consciously is to not take it. And therefore, I will not take it. And therefore, I'm okay to stay and handle this because even if it's being served, I am not taking it. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Yes. But this requires a certain maturity in terms of consciousness. A player able to do that is already raising frequency quite heavily. So not everybody will be able to consciously decide I'm being served something I don't want to, therefore I'm not taking. Most of the person would not even know they are being served. They would not understand that they are being coded somehow. Do you see problematic?
Yes, I do. Is this something that could be done, let's say, at the beginning of the day as a blanket statement? Would it be of benefit for the rest of the day if someone said after waking up, today I will resist every food in the greater sense that does not serve me?
Yes, of course. If they are already consciously putting this intention, it would for sure help. But will they be able to maintain that conscious intention while they are in the situation? Because in the morning, you could give that speech to you and give that intention to yourself. And this for sure will already trigger something in you that would somehow put the protection, as you say. But if once you're in a situation, let's say, we're going to use that festival of music again. Once you're in that situation and the music is being served, but instead of maintaining this intention, you're actually, quote marks, going with the flow or taking all in or just taking the music and you don't consciously understand that this is actually not the music resonating with you, that something is carried in that music that is going to code yourself, then what you decided, your intention that you had beginning of the day, would not be emphasized because you are now not applying this intention. You dropped it. So it is good, of course, to start the day with this. But in order to be efficient at all time, you will have to maintain that consciousness intention throughout your day. And sometimes when you're fully immersed in the game, it is quite difficult to maintain that intention. This is why intuition is taking place, because intention is mental, something that you as a player on that playtime control. Intuition is something that you as a non-player is sending to yourself as a player. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Okay, so intention is always great to have, but could be hard to maintain or sometimes could be blurry. Intuition is always right.
On what basis does the greater self send this message to the incarnated part of it? What is the intention behind this message?
Behind the intuition message,
Yes.
yes, the intention is to remind the player that because he's not just the player, maybe what's going to be taken as a player is not going to serve the non-player. We are realizing that this is quite challenging to explain as it looks like Russian dolls game. Let's say if you are playing, then at the moment, everything you're experiencing as a player is fulfilling you because it's fun. You know, you're having a good time, you're experimenting or whatever, you're going through an experience that is actually pleasing as a player. But if that experience as a non-player is not fitting you properly or is not serving your purpose, is not serving your essence, is not serving your soul, as we may speak, then probably your intuition will be tingling to try to tell you, okay, maybe let's not abuse this, or maybe that's enough for right now, or maybe this is not to be continued, or maybe this was just a one time only, stuff like that. Because your intuition is trying to make sure you stay in alignment with your essence. Sometimes this game has pitfall or, like how we call it, trickster, because it is so fun and pleasant to indulge in the moment, but it is not serving you if you keep on going through that road in a long, long time. So this is why your intuition will be, okay, you had this experience. Now let's move on. If you want to do it often, it's not going to resonate. This is why the message are being sent to somehow unconsciously keep you on track, somehow unconsciously keeping your essence intact so you can still stay aligned, even if you consciously are not trying to align. So intuition is really a compass, but sometimes it is in complete disagreement with what the player wants to experience. Because remember, once you come in this playtime, you are granted with free will, freedom of choice. So you could experience absolutely whatever you would want to experience as a player. But because you chose to come play as a non-player to start with, and you are still a non-player, then sometimes it could be in disagreement. And then sometimes this intuition is put in place in order to remind you, oh, hey, you are more than just a player. This is not made for you. Back off. Or yes, this is actually perfect for you. Please immerse yourself in it. You understand the link here?
Yes.
It's almost your safety net, but it's so subtle. So if you are not trained somehow, if you are not taking time to reinforce that little intuition of yours, then you will not hear it all the time. You will not be able to consciously acknowledge it all the time. And therefore, you will be able to make choices that will steer you out of alignment. Even if your essence, let's say your higher self, is trying through this intuition to send you a message, wrong way. If you're not hearing it, then you can completely jump in the pool of the wrong way.
So would it be correct to say that the intuitive messages received or sent to the player always based on the interest of the greater being, the non-player?
Yes, always, because this intuition is actually the non-player voice.
Mhm.
Remember, we mentioned that you had the veil of not remembering, but somehow there was an inner link that was always there in each of the player that will still link them with what they truly are, meaning a non-player. So this link is voiced through intuition.
Are the interests of the non-player connected to what we call, for example, a life plan?
Yeah, you may say that in terms of if you accept the idea that before coming to this playtime, you make plans. Remember, you could decide with your tribe, your initial tribe, if you're going to enter that game together or not, which role you're going to be taking, how you want to play this game, what you are trying to experience through this game. You make all those choices before you become a player. So once you make those choices and you become a player, you forgot that you made those choices. And you even forgot that you started before that game. But somehow there is still a connection, and that intuition cannot tell you in words like, hey, I'm not you per se. I exist without playing that game, and you need to listen to me because I'm your true self and I know what's best for you. This obviously cannot be said like this. So your true self will just resonate inside of your player self through this intuition and let you know when something feels off or not. But yeah, it's kind of what you say could be like a life path because you would decide on those things prior to your venue in this playtime. You would decide what to experience. Otherwise, you would not even come. If you had no intention or no purpose or no desire to gain something out of this playtime as a non-player, what would you come?
Right.
So it's the same as a kid. You know, when a kid plays dolls or whatever, the kid has something to gain from this. It's fun. It's of their amusement. They create new world. They're having fun being the doll for a minute. This is the same situation. If you had nothing to gain, if you had nothing to fulfill your non-player self, then why would you come? So yes, this intuition will definitely serve what you call a life plan.
Right. Is it possible that such a life plan contains an experience that might seem undesirable to the player?
Yes, absolutely.
So, therefore, is it possible that the intuition of a player could guide the player into an experience that is undesirable for the player?
Yes.
This is tricky then, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is, isn't it?
Because I don't know if I can speak for all players, but the image that intuition has in this playtime is probably that it always wants you to experience good things.
Yes. Well, it will all be good in the end. But because you have this time thingy playing in your game, it might have to go through a phase of not so good or not enjoyment in order to attain the real enjoyment in the end. So yes, it could be tricky and it could be unpleasant, unfortunately, but it will resolve to a pleasant situation. Let's use actors. Let's say an actor is yourself as an essence, as a non-player, right? You're an actor. You're very kind at heart. You're very sweet. You're very lovely. And now you're hired for a role as a villain. You're hired for a role as a villain. So you will have to do a lot of stuff that you do not like to do as a non-player, that you will have to do a lot of villain stuff. The watcher will have to perceive you as a villain, to truly believe you're the villain, to be disgusted by your action because this is a role that you came to play for this film. Now, you're going to play this role amazingly if you follow your intuition. You're playing this role amazingly. Your intuition will always have your back in order to play this role amazingly to gain what you came to get. So yes, it could be definitely putting you into a tricky situation, but it will always be for your benefits in the end. It's all a matter of what resonates with you or not. Because even, let's say, if you were to face an uncomfortable situation, that situation will be resonating with you. This is hard to consciously grasp, but it's almost like sometimes you are finding yourself feeling not at ease or heavy or something is not quite right, but somehow you feel right, not feeling right. We are trying to explain that, which is really hard with words. Let's say sometimes you're crying, like really crying. And at the time you're crying, it doesn't feel good because if you're crying, it's because you have some emotions that are not sweet that are coming out. But somehow, while you're crying, while you're feeling not so good, you know it feels right. Do you understand what we're trying to convey?
I believe so.
Okay. So your compass will be kind of like that, meaning your intuition will always have your back, always, no matter what. But the question is, we believe what you're trying to imply is which back? Will it have the back of the player or will it have the back of the non-player? The answer is probably the non-player, but still the player as well. Because remember, if the player cannot handle the game, and if the player at one point is so heavy and so miserable that the player ends the game, if this was not the plan, then the non-player doesn't want that either, because this is not what he was trying to create. This is not what he or her was trying to experience, right?
Right.
So there is a fine line that the intuition knows between making sure that somehow if the non-player came to experience non-pleasant stuff, then the player is still in a place that they can go through those non-pleasant stuff and handle them and not just pile with unpleasant situation to the point that the players can't handle none of it and it's a wrap.
I see.
Because this will not serve any of them, not the player, not the non-player.
A scenario came up in my mind, and let me know if this is not even a possibility. But let's say someone who, player who is not really aware of their intuition,
Yes.
reads about the value of intuition, and then decides, okay, from now on, I'm going to listen to my intuition. And then the first thing that happens is their intuition guiding them to make a choice that leads to an undesirable experience
Yes.
because it's part of the life plan. But the player doesn't like it and then decides, okay, I will never listen to my intuition again.
Yes. We can see that happen. Well, probably what would happen, well, we believe that what would happen, at least that's what we would do if we were an intuition, we will kick in higher. Meaning, if a player is at the point where they're in tune with their intuition, like you said, intuition lead them in a place that is no good to them, and they are pissed off, and they will say, I would never listen to myself again. I would never listen to my intuition again. Then next thing you know, intuition gets higher. Intuition gets louder somehow. They could still choose to not listen, but they will hear it. Meaning, it will be like a constant bother. Sometimes you decided, oh, like you said, I would not listen to myself again. This is not good. This is not what I wanted. I would not listen to my intuition. But next thing you know, it keeps on poking you. The next day, intuition is reminding you, oh, we feel like we really want to do that. But no, you are not giving in. Then it will keep on poking. We have tons of example among the self that has been incarnated. Like this is actually happening. If an intuition is being heard, like quite loudly, and the player gets mad because this is really what we are talking about. The player gets mad at its intuition and decided, oh, I'm not going to listen. That means somehow the connection has been established. Somehow the connection is here. So somehow the intuition, meaning the non-player, can establish connection with the self that is playing and will poke him or her, depending on the vehicle chosen. Unless, because this is actually possible as well, unless the active player playing decided to seal the door. This could happen where a player is completely consciously done with listening to any part of him or her that would actually be intuitive and decided to completely shut the door, shut the communication, fully immersed as a player and decide that this is the only voices, the only guts that will matter and be of importance to him or her. And probably this player would disconnect completely from anything spiritual as well. This is possible. And in this case, the non-player will probably have a hard time reach out because it's almost like consciously the player would refuse to take in consideration that there is an existence of him outside of this game and therefore decide for himself or herself that the game is all there is and they will fully immerse in it and they will be very surprised once the game is done. But during the game, they will just be playing completely 100% into the veil of not remembering. And this is actually an option. There is nothing right or wrong about the way you're playing. There is just your choice of playing. But at the same time, once the game is over, once you go back to your non-playing self, and once you analyze what marks your party and how you handled it, then you would probably not be surprised if you have to play again, or if you have to rest, or if you are not completely satisfied with your experience and somehow choose to go experience again what you are attempting to experience in either the same game playtime or another one. It doesn't really matter, but you would for sure probably go back and try to experience what your intention was to start with as a non-player until you get that right.
Thank you so much for establishing this framework that comes with the intuition and for diving into these different scenarios with me. Could we now focus in on how intuition actually expresses itself inside of the player? How does intuition work? How does the player perceive intuition?
Yes. We are not 100% sure this will be common to 100% of players because intuition can express differently for different players. But there is one thing that we believe should resonate with all. And this is in terms of the way it makes the player feel. So let's say every player is feeling. Not every player has feelings, but every player is feeling. You do understand the difference, right?
Could you repeat one more time?
Every player is feeling. Not every player has feelings, but every player is feeling. Is that understandable?
I think so.
It should
Although
feel right.
I would ask, could you explain what you mean with not
Yes.
every player has feelings?
Yes. Well, you have some players that are not able to experience feelings as emotions. We're talking about feelings as emotions. Let's say feelings of sadness, feelings of joy, feelings of, well, fear, you know, feelings. But every player can feel in a way, even a player with no feelings inside, if he's hungry, he's going to feel he's hungry. If she is tired, she's going to feel she's tired. She's going to feel a shift in the state of being. Does that make sense? Okay. So feelings, when we talk about feelings here, we are mentioning emotions mainly. Feelings attached to emotions, to what you could call sentiments, sentimental or expression of self through feelings. But when we are talking about a player feeling something, so not having feelings, but feeling something, it could be literally anything. You feel cold, you feel hot, you feel tired, you feel thirsty, you feel hungry, those type of things, those type of state of being, because there is some shift happening within your player self that is actually physiological or biological or, you know, energetically speaking. There is a shift happening in your state of being that will make you feel something.
Right.
Is that clear for you?
Yes.
Okay. So every player in this playtime is able to feel this difference in the state of being. Probably the intuition will be embracing that opportunity. So you have like survival instincts. This is one of the common thing into living species in that playtime. Survival instinct. So here again, intuition will be speaking. Let's say if you are hungry, and you will have to eat because you would feel like it's something that needs to be done in order to maintain yourself, right? This could be intuition. This could be heard as an intuition because you are telling yourself somehow, I feel the need of eating or drinking because somehow if I don't do it, then I feel it's going to be problematic. This is your intuition speaking because you need to maintain yourself as a player in order for your non-self to be experimenting this game. So this is how intuition would come in. It would poke you in your state of being, sensing that there is something shifting inside. Let's say if you are receiving a call from a friend and the friend is talking to you about something, but somehow you are feeling or you are sensing that behind what the friend is saying, behind he or her voice, there is something going on. This is your intuition telling you, oh, maybe that person is calling, telling you this and this and this, but there is something going on with them. Maybe you should ask. That's also where your intuition will interfere. It will make you somehow pick up on some shifting, or if we can use shift in a state of being, whether it's yours or whether it's from another one, but you will be having that sensation inside you that is kind of poking you to either ask more question or steer a situation in a different way, or, you know, take action in order to see or perceive what's being said or done from a different perspective. So this is how intuition would work. We could use another example. Let's say if you are waking up in the morning and you are supposed to go to work with your car, and you have different roads that will lead you to your work. then for some reason, you used to take a similar road every day you're going to work. But this day, when you woke up, you're like, I'm not taking that road today. Something is poking you inside that in your state of being, it feels like that road, which is so familiar, which is what you take every day for some reason that you cannot really explain to yourself consciously, rationally, or using your analytic side. For some reason, you are not at ease by taking that road. And you decide, okay, I'm going to follow that shift in my state of being and I'm going to take the other road. And next thing you know, when you get to work, you're good. And an hour later, your coworker came in and said, oh, there was a huge traffic on that road and we are late. Boom. Now you understand why your intuition was poking you, telling you, today, take the other road. So it's more like a poking in your state of being. And sometimes it's very subtle, sometimes it's very loud. And sometimes the reflex of, the conscious mind is to refuse it. The reflex of a conscious mind is telling that intuition, what the heck are you talking about? I've been taking this road for years. Every morning I'm taking that road. Why would I take the other road that would make me, lose 10 minutes or use more gas or pay your toll or whatever excuses your conscious mind will have? And this is this debate between the two that would be decisive on whether you are listening to yourself as a player, meaning to your conscious mind that is in control, that is deciding, that is analytical, or whether you are listening to your non-player self that is poking you with a shift in your state of being. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So intuition would probably work this way in your playtime. That would be the easiest way to recognize it. Now, intuition could also work as a little voice, as people use as expression. My little voice is telling me to. But even when you hear that little voice, it also comes with a shift in the state of being. That little voice doesn't come along. It comes with a sensation. There is a feel attached to it. And again, not a feeling, a feel attached to it. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how intuition will kick in. Then what we are saying in terms of training for players is because the rational mind is so quick and in certain person is extremely quick to come into place and take control over everything else. This is why sometimes training is required in order to make sure that we are reinforcing this acceptance of that intuition and that we are taking action, listening to that feel or that shift in the state of being. This is very important because a lot of times, and we're going to use Emily as an example because she is definitely really good at this. Intuition will be very strong, very strong. But because the conscious mind, first of all, doesn't understand why it comes right now, because sometimes in her case, she is not consciously thinking about what the intuition is going to say. Intuition comes, say something, her conscious mind has no recognition of that and is like, yeah, whatever, I was on another level, and will not acknowledge intuition and decided to go about that day. You can be sure that further down the day, the situation will come up and first thing she will say is, I knew it. I heard it this morning. Oh shit. I told myself this and that. I should have listened. This is actually valid for, we want to say 50% of players in that playtime. They are acting exactly the same way as she is. You hear your intuition, you feel it. You're feeling yourself poking your player self. But because your player self is too busy being in your player mind with your player plans, with your player intention for the day, with your player habits and yada, 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 and belief system or everything you want to put in there, you decided that you know better that your non-player self, which is to us very funny because definitely your non-player self know way better than your player self. But because you are listening to this part of you, you are discrediting your intuition. And this is where you need training. This is where most of humans need to really pay attention to their state of being. Because the mind, the ego, as you may say, is tricky. The ego likes to be in control. The mind likes to control, likes to understand, likes to know things, likes its all habits, likes its routine, likes its comforts. But the intuition doesn't care about none of this. The intuition cares about what is serving you the best. Period. Not you as a player, you as an essence, you as a being of energy that is coming into that playtime to have an experience as a human being. But you're a spiritual being to start with, not the way around. So this is the kind of fight that human beings needs to take every day in order to train themselves to be able to acknowledge that if there is a shift in their state of being, if there is a little voice telling them something, then they need to learn how to pay attention and follow this little voice, even if their first reflex is to doubt it and to be scared because it's kind of known compared to what they're used to. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Yeah. So this is how intuition will kick in. And this is how the player will have to learn how to, let's say, walk hands in hands with her being the intuition.
Right. So one way of training one's intuition is just by doing it, by following it as often as possible.
Yes. Another way is also to have full conversation with intuition. Human players call it meditation, but meditation sometimes is misinterpreted. A lot of players are believing that meditation is just sitting still to your mind and just let it happen. And that, yes, it could be part of that for sure, but it could be also, let's say, if you are washing dishes, you're doing a mechanical action that your body is trained to do without you having to consciously know what you're doing. Let's say breathing, your body is doing instinctively, right? You're breathing, you're not consciously trying to think, let me take the air in and out every day, every second. No, your body does it. Walking, same. Some activities that are very earthians, like washing dishes, are what we call a mechanical action. Your body is trained to do it. You wash the dishes, you know exactly how it's done. Not at first, but over time. So sometimes you're here washing dishes, and next thing you know, your mind is going on a completely different direction. You're making space, you're making plan, and you're completely somewhere else. And next thing you know, you realize you've done the dishes and you don't remember exactly how you done it because you are not fully present in your action. This is also called meditation because somehow you made space and you allowed yourself to go somewhere else than what you were actually doing. This is also a sort of meditation. Meditation is basically when you're able to reconnect your player self with your non-player self. This is where the non-player self is actually having a range of motion and a range of influence on the players that is greater than when the player is in full control. This is what we call meditative states.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this why so often great inspiration, wonderful ideas come to a player while they're doing things like running or washing the dishes or brushing their teeth.
Yes, exactly. This is exactly why, because you are having what you call a mechanical action, you see? So your body is actually used to do that. You don't need to pay attention to it. But because you're somewhere else, you're really tapped into your true self, tapped into your essence. And this is where a conversation could happen with not just you as a player, but with you as a non-player. And this is why everybody on earth is talking about meditation being amazing for alignment, being amazing for raising frequency or vibrational system, because this is actually the time where you have yourself as an essence coming fully in to have a full on conversation with yourself as a player. And yourself as a player being completely available and, able to receive and engage with that aspect of yourself that is non playing. Are we making clear statement here? Is that easy to follow?
Yes.
So meditative states could be very useful for a player if they wanted to reinforce that intuition, if they wanted to really elevate somehow their frequency and started to walk hand in hand with their player self and their non-player self, because this is a combo. This is where it becomes very interesting in working with both aspects of you, because it would take in consideration that, oh, you are a human, so you have to deal with human stuff and you have to deal with the law and the rules in your incarnation situation, because you cannot remove them, but you also will be able to follow the direction of, people call it direction of your heart. Yes, but it's really the direction of your essence, the direction of what you're made of when you are not incarnated, the direction of your own energy. This is really important if you want to raise a frequency and if you want to elevate, quote marks, as you earthian like to call, this is the work that needs to be done. Conciliate the part of you that is human, incarnated, and the part of you that is actually still on an energy level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. So we would like to clear that. When we say meditation, we're not talking about somebody sitting lotus position with their hands, eyes closed, music in the background. We're not talking about that. When we're talking about meditation, we're talking about basically state of being where both can communicate easily, because the player is willing and ready to make space for the non-player to come and have a conversation and work hands in hands. This is what we're talking about.
May I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
I have heard of conscious exercises that may train intuitive perception. For example, taking dice, a little cube, and before rolling it, trying to listen to one's intuition, which number of eyes will be on the upper side. Is this a
Yes.
legitimate way?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because basically, okay, you see the same way sometimes in autistic people, they are able to call, let's say at a casino or whatever, they are able to call shots before. Have you seen what movie? Rain Man. You
Yes.
seen Rain Man movie?
Yes.
Okay. This was a good example of it. There are other movies like this. Touch, we believe, yeah, maybe touch is the name of it. Well, anyway, there are other examples in the visual arts that can support what we're about to say. But basically, sometimes when you have people, players that are working as with specific given attributes, and we're gonna label them as autistic, even if we really do not like that term, but let's use it because this is how Earthian call it. So autistic people sometimes they are able to call shots on what you call hazardous game or luck game or whatever, because there is a vibrational frequency that is used here. In the same way, some people are able to predict, like quote marks, what's about to happen, because somehow it's a possibility that is floating in the air that they're catching upon And because their intention is upon this possibility is materializing and being concrete at the moment, they are putting it down in 3D. We don't want to elaborate on this because that was not the question. But the question with your dice, yes, absolutely. Because that intuition, that part of you that is completely not incarnated and therefore has knowledge beyond what your brain can handle, because as an Earthian, you are not using the entire possibility of function in your brain. You're using just a very small parts. This is also part of the design for this playtime. But basically, yes, when you're rolling dice, your intuition would know what will come out of those dice. If you follow this intuition, most of the time, you'll see that you're accurate. And that surprisingly, as amazingly as it could sound, what you're going to draw is the number you heard in your mind. Some people call it medium or clairvoyance or whatever. This is basically just a matter of vibrational system. But yes, intuition will pick up on this. You throw the dice, you go with the number you heard, boom. Next thing you know, you're accurate. But also sometimes, this is where the fine line is with this exercise. Your mind, that is actually very smart and actually very trained to control, will decide that the number is going to give you will function like your intuition. So sometimes you're playing the dice, right? Your intuition, when you are able to really differentiate the two, will give you the correct number. But your mind, who likes to control and play tricks sometimes, will decide, let me take back the control. But in order for him or her to think I am not the mind, I'm going to use the same way as the intuition. And I'm going to come in, whisper a number, and make sure they chose that number. But this will not be the intuition. The difference in the two will be the intuition will poke you as a different state of being when it comes with the number. And it's very subtle. This is why training is good. Somehow you will have inside you an energy or a tinglement or something that will come along with the number that will make you feel like this is going to happen. The other one will make you uncertain of it. It will make you feel like, oh, maybe that could be it, maybe not. And next thing you know, because you're doubting it, boom, you draw the dice and it's not the number coming. Because you're already entering a debate consciously with it, you're already altering the vibrational aspect of it that is trying to manifest. So you're already altering the result that is about to be drawn. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's fairly easy to understand, but maybe we could agree that it could be harder on a human scale. Do you see what we're trying to say?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
So yes, those are a good way to train your intuition as well, as long as you can make the difference and as long as you're able to check your mind and to check your control and make sure that you are not letting them interfere. Yes. The same way as you could do with cards. You know, if you ask your friend to draw cards and your intuition is telling you something, or think about a name, or think about a number. Some people make a living out of those. And basically, you can come and intuitively say something, and boom, next thing you know, it will be this. So, this could be a good way also to work with your intuition, for sure.
Very good. So let's say someone who wants to strengthen their relationship with their own intuition could combine the intention to more often listen and follow their intuition in daily life, to
Yes.
go into meditation
Yeah.
regularly, and also make time to make a deliberate game or practice out of it with cards or dice.
Yes. That will be a great training combo.
Okay, wonderful.
You could add one that is actually training their empath aspect as well, because they could train with friends and family. Let's say sometimes, you could interact with someone and they would talk a certain way, but intuitively, you would pick up on something, right? You will pick up on something. Sometimes it will be really clear. You will pick up on something and you would know for some reason that this person just argued with their loved one. This person is having an issue. This person is hurt physically. That there is something going on that they are not saying. Intuitively, you will pick up on this. Just try it. try to express it out loud. If you feel like you pick up on something, just ask the person you're interacting with, ask them, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm picking up on something, and tell them what you're picking up on and ask them if it's correct. That could be also a way of training.
Right.
And that could be a way of training and being useful, because you will open the door for that person if they are not ready or able to mention it, or if they thought that they would have no place of being heard about that subject. You are opening the door for them to take it, and start saying, yes, actually, you're right, and open up about something. And if you're able to hold space for them at the moment, that could be of help for them, because they would feel heard, they would feel validated in their problem, and they would feel like they have the support when they were not even seeking for it. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So this could be a win-win of training intuition, because you are opening the door for someone, and at the same time you are checking with yourself, am I correctly sensing my intuition is telling me stuff?
Wonderful. At this point, I would like to ask you to excuse me for a minute because I really have to use the bathroom,
Yeah,
the restroom.
we could actually let Emily do the same.
Okay, wonderful. I will meet you right back here.
uh,
Hey, Kai, you can unmute
Hey.
your microphone. Yes.
Yeah, I just was coughing, so I didn't want to be like spluttering, and the birds have been going off. So I thought, okay, better that it's just.
Okay, no problem. If you have any questions at any time, just raise your hand
Mhm.
and then we'll create space so you can ask it.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. So you might have noticed this is about intuition.
I do have one question, but I'm not sure if you already talked about it yet.
hey guy,
Hey.
fire it.
Okay, so I live on an old country road, right? It's very small, and only one car can go down there at a time.
Okay.
The road is very zigzag. You cannot see around the corners. And so some days when I'm driving down this road, like my intuition is so strong and it says to me, go slow today. You need to go slow. And I feel it in my whole body. And even my body is kind of driving slow. So
Yeah.
and every time this happens, I turn the corner and there's another car there and I have to get around them slowly and everything. And it's like this perfect every time. But when I'm doing this just like in other situations, it's not the same. It's more wishy-washy. Like I ask my intuition, hey, what about this? And then, of course, something comes, and then this other thing is having like an argument with it. No, that's not this, it's something else. How do I develop the same kind of body feeling to when I'm driving my car down the road and it tells me go slow?
Well, the thing with your car, at the moment it happens, it's coming without you asking for it, correct? It's just
Mm,
coming out like out of nowhere, boom, the feeling calm, intuition kicks in, right? In
yes.
other situation, if we're understanding correctly, you are kind of calling on upon it. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe this is where the difficulty will happen, because intuition, when it comes in by itself, the mind is not consciously involved with what it comes to express, right? It's not consciously engaged in a topic that intuition is about to tackle. When you are calling upon your intuition, you're already calling on a specific topic that your conscious mind is completely involved with, correct?
Yes.
Therefore, you are giving more space and more power to your conscious mind to interfere with what your intuition will have to say on the subject. You're already somehow in a controlled environment, per se, because you're already engaging consciously on the direction that you are pointing your intuition to. So, this is where it becomes tricky. It's a good thing to do, and it's a good thing to train on, but it's also, uh, if we may say, normal, quote marks, because since your conscious mind is already involved, it's more difficult to differentiate the two. And it's more difficult to not let this control mind come in because this mind of the human really, really likes to be involved. This is its game. I mean, we are talking about its experience, right? So it's normal that it constantly wants to be involved. But it's also normal that the result of it is a more difficult way of hearing and differentiating your intuition from your mind. So we would like to say maybe keep on training that way. Maybe keep on training when you are consciously calling upon your intuition, but try to pay attention to the feel. And again, not the feeling, the feel that is associated with the answer. Because if your conscious mind is asking something, when you're going to have two answers, one will probably be from your conscious mind, one will probably be from your intuition. When it's the same answer, then you will have one answer. It will be clear, it will be done. They're both in agreement, no question about it. But if the conscious mind is in complete disagreement with the intuition, then this is when you will have to deliberate whether you follow A or B. And sometimes it's just a very, very small difference in the feel. And most of the time, we like to say it's harder to follow your intuition than your conscious mind when this situation kicks in. So, what you could do to see how you operate consciously as well is when you start training your mind on this and you have the two answers, try to follow the one that you don't want to follow first. Just to see, because sometimes you see, since the mind is creating the conversation, the mind is actually bringing the subject in, the mind will want to stay in control. So it would reinforce the fact that you believe your intuition is this because it seems right. But in fact, it's your mind deceiving you because since it wants to stay in control, it's telling you, no, 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 no. We are intuition, follow this one. But the one that is actually, that's probably your intuition coming. But, it's harder to follow because somehow you give more emphasis to the other one. So let's try that just to make sure this is how you operate. Because if it's the case, then you can train yourself knowing that the one that will be less inclined to follow will be probably the intuition. Does that make sense to you, Kyle?
Yeah, totally.
And maybe you don't operate this way. Maybe actually the one that seems to be the one to follow will be your intuition. We are not sure on how you work the two aspects of you when this situation comes in. So this is why we would recommend to do the test. Follow the first one that is the least appealing. If it's your intuition, then now you know. Then you got to train it every time. And it's hard to follow the one we are the least inclined to follow. This is something you need to be prepared because when you're debating with yourself, if there is one road that is yes, yes, and one road that is no, it's hard to follow the no. So let's try that and see what comes out. Because you also need to discover how the two aspects of yourself interact with each other. And this will be different for every player. Because like we say, intention when comes in by itself, it's more easy to acknowledge and follow. Intention when called upon by the conscious mind, you're putting already a difficulty on top of, everything for yourself right there. It's a good training, but you're training on a different level. You're adding difficulty from the get-go.
Did you just mean intuition when you said intention?
Did we say intention?
I believe you were referring to intuition though.
Yes, we were.
Yes.
If we use intention, then that's our mistake.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it just gets tricky when I think desire is involved. When desire is involved, that is when the game, the little ping pong game of who is right, this is where it starts to get wishy-washy and
Of course.
Yeah.
And rightfully, because if you're desiring something, that means you're already in this game. You're already wanting to create and manifest a situation that you as a player chose to create. So your desire to bring that situation into life is strongly attached to this game and to your player self. And now you're trying to involve your non-player self, which is already not taking the whole aspect in this game and only play a small part of it. And you're asking that aspect of yourself to validate or not your choice. Like we said before, if the two are in agreement, this is fairly easy. You have confirmation that this is actually good to go. But if there is a discord, we said just follow the one that is against first to make sure, because from experience, most of the time, the conscious mind attached to the game, attached to the player, will be the one taking more space. So therefore, we engage you to choose the smaller one that doesn't want to go with this desire. Because also, we're not saying that this is accurate 100% of the case, but we're saying that this is a tendency that the mind has that we could, from experience, mention. Sometimes the fact that you're already bringing your intuition into the picture when you desire something, wondering if it's good or not for you, then you probably already have your answer. Because if you're creating this debate, that means somehow part of you wants it to be good for you, and part of you is telling you, no, it's no good. And most of the time, like we said before, if it's good to go, you will have an agreement, so you will have no issue. But if you really desire something, but an aspect of you is debating already, is it good for me? Then you probably have your answer. This is probably your intuition kicking it and triggering the debate with yourself. Does that make sense to you, Kai?
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's always the case, but we're saying this is pretty often and this is pretty common. This happens.
Mm-hmm. One just follow-up question. Is it like a multiple choice exam where the answer is always with you? Like your intuition will give you an answer of the truth every time? Or is there more like, no, I think we don't give her or him the answer today. It's good that she has this little wrong adventure and learn something like this.
When it's appropriate for you, it will give you an answer. When it's something that you actually have to experience without interference, because this is part of the plan you wanted to experience as a player, or this is part of what will make you grow, and you need to figure it out on your own, quote mark, on play yourself, then probably you would not have an answer. But when it comes to intuition, intuition is not the same as when you have full-on conversation with your higher self, let's say under hypnosis or other aspect of it. So most of the time, your intuition will kick in. But as we said before, maybe your intuition will kick in not by giving you an answer that you're expecting on something, but will kick in by creating a debate or a question to start with. You know, there is a saying, and we're not familiar with that saying, so we don't know if we're going to use it accurately, but there is a saying that says if you ask something, that means you already know the answer. Because if you ask something, that means somehow the statement that you want to verify doesn't resonate with you, correct? That there is something that is unsettling with you. If it's a knowledge, for example, is because you do not have the reference, you do not have the knowledge, so it's something that you can verify, and we're not talking about this. We're not talking about something that is factual, that you can actually go and see what fact it is and, you know, put it into place. We're talking about when you have a question and you want to know if it's appropriate or not, or you want to know if this is what you should be doing or not. The fact that you are having doubts, and it's fairly easy for us to understand, but it's, as we're speaking, we are realizing that it's fairly hard to put into words because we don't have the full spectrum carried with the words that we're using. But we're going to try to send energy towards you guys so you can actually receive it full. What you're coming up with in terms of a question is already the answer to your question. Because if the debate was clear, if the answer was clear, there will be no question to start with. intuition and self as a player will be in agreement. If you come up with the question, is because something inside you is telling you that there is a need for debate because something is not fully resonating 100% with you. Do you understand what we're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you come up for yourself with a question, okay, you get up this morning, your friend is calling you, is telling you, okay, come with me. I'm going to this place. I want you to come with, right? If already you have a debate with yourself, like you receive the information, you receive the invitation, part of you is like, oh yeah, let's go. And part of you is like, I don't know why, but something is stopping me from fully committing to going, right? And then this is the situation where you're going to call upon your intuition and ask, okay, should I go or should I not go? Maybe the training would be to already believe the answer has been given to you. Because if your friend is telling you, let's go, I want you to come with blah, 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 and this is something that you will be fully benefiting from, then there should be no reason why this debate starts in the first place.
Mm.
If this debate starts is because probably already with the given information invitation, you are sensing a shift in your state of being that without being able to explain why, it is not fully resonating with you when it comes to the idea of committing to that coming.
And
Does that make
this,
sense?
Yes.
it does.
Like emotions are going to guide you in that as well. You're going to get a good feeling and you'll know it'll be a good time. And then if you're like, oh, I don't know, that's already like a sign that, okay, yeah, there's a sign and there's a message for you in that.
Probably. So maybe the training is not where you think it is in terms of, oh, let me consciously call upon my intuition and have that debate. Maybe the training is as soon as the debate comes, maybe this is when my intuition already did its part.
Mm. Mm.
Right. And this could probably be applied to any situation. For example, considering buying a certain object or deciding where to move to.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yes.
Mm.
At the same time, and we're going to be making this even more tricky for you guys, vice versa. Because at the same time, let's say, for the buying a certain object, Mario, we're going to jump on that example because we like tangible examples. So maybe your intuition is actually guiding you towards that object, but your conscious mind, because maybe it's not the time, because maybe the finances are not correct, or it's not, the moment to spend that amount of money on that object, your conscious mind will play the debate. So in this situation, you could have both ways. You can have your conscious mind that wants to buy the object because, it can and it's good. And your intuition telling you, let's create a debate. So now you're not sure if you want to buy it or not. Or you can have your intuition telling you, let's buy that object, but your conscious mind creating a debate saying, let's not do that right now because it's not the right moment. The difference between the two is usually if your conscious mind is creating the debate, you have some tangible, consciously known situation that would explain why this is a bad solution for you. In terms of like object, it will be finances are not right. Your room is too small. You do not know where to put it. You do not know how to use it. All those known situations would probably show you when the debate comes from your conscious mind because you have tangible stuff that is telling you, no, I can rationalize that answer. And analyzing the situation, there's a lot of known consequences or circumstances that are not telling me it's a good idea. But intuitively, it's a good idea. So this will be easier, not easy, but easier to know when your conscious mind is steering the debate. But sometimes the line is so thin because you don't have consciously known circumstances that is also difficult to know which one is creating the debate. This is why this is very tricky for a player to know which one is speaking. But this is why also it's important to make space, to detach from the game for a second, like meditation. And you know what we put behind that word, to be able to really tune in and have conversation with ourselves without having necessarily advice or guidance to be given, but just conversation. Just check with yourself, and that will already start the training. But it's a very thin line, very thin line. The only thing we can measure from experience is that feel, that shift in the state of being that is attached to the presence of the intention. Intuition. Oh, we get those two words mixed up. Intuition.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
But you're saying that with training, one will become able to discern when the conscious mind is the initiator of an impulse or the intuition.
Yes, yes. And you have a lot of people that are already able to do that. And usually you can see they are very in tune with themselves. So they would not bother, they would not try to, let's say, have a politically correct answer to a given situation. They would just be able to set their boundaries and call it as it is for them, not pleasing the expectation of the masses. We're trying to give a tangible example. Okay, let's say we're going to keep the friends even stuff. You're with friends, right? You're at a party with friends. It's a birthday party. And you're happy to come and everything is good. But then all of a sudden, your intuition is picking up on an energy shift that is coming, right? And it's your best friend or a close friend's birthday party. The politically correct answer will be to stay at the party to please your host and make sure that you're doing your friendship duty and you're staying till the end to support your friend and show them love, right? That would be the politically correct stuff to do. But somebody that is completely in tune and fully accepting to follow intuition will be picking up on that energy shift. Intuition comes in. There is a new state of being. Something is not feeling right. There is something coming. The correct way to stay in tune with intuition will be to excuse yourself and remove yourself from this situation and leave the birthday party. Politically correct will be to stay. The mind wants to be pleasing. The conscious wants to be a good friend, wants to play that game correctly. The non-player will be, this is not right, you have to bounce. And if the player is trained and is accepting of that intuition regarding how it make them look in front of a crowd, then they will leave the situation. Do you understand what we're saying?
Yes.
Yes. So that will be a good tangible example to give.
Yes, very good one, actually. We are nearing the limit of the time we have available today. Let's maybe conclude the topic of intuition. What would a player's life look like or feel like or result in if he or she or they were to 100% follow their intuition?
Alignment. Straight up. Why is it so important to live in alignment with your essence? And you, as an Akashic reader, you probably already know that. We are not sure what Kai is doing, but maybe he knows that as well. Living in alignment, meaning that you can express your full potential, meaning that you can manifest and create actively the life that you desire to experience. Are we correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you both are aware of that statement, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this is why one player would want to be in alignment, to live in abundance according to what they came to experience, to create and manifest exactly what they desire to experience. So somebody that is following intuition will be just that, in perfect alignment with what they came to experience. So whatever they are deciding to create for themselves will be happening. They will be manifesting like no business. It will be very, very efficient. They will be somehow blossoming, not as a player necessarily, but most of the time, yes, but especially as a soul experiencing. And the more aligned they are, like if somebody is able to fully live on intuition, to fully align, most of the cases, they are pretty much done with the experience. When you finally attained full comprehension and full alignment and, you have no more challenges, then your time is up.
And as we established earlier, player who 100% follow their intuition might also go through experiences that may seem undesirable in that moment if they are part of the plan.
Yes, yes. And remember, we are not familiar with players following 100% their intuition, to be honest. Theoretically, yes. Because at the same time, like we said, following 100% your intuition means no room for creating anymore because everything is just known and learned and experienced and fulfilled, and creation is needed when challenges come, correct?
Mm.
So there is no need to create anymore. So pretty much there is no use to experience that playtime anymore. But if somebody is close to follow for at least the majority of their life and chosen action to follow their intuition, then yes, it doesn't mean they will be in pleasant situation. But when they are put into unpleasant situation by their intuition is because they are facing an opportunity to create and to overcome new challenges and therefore to assimilate, integrate, and digest new lessons, quote marks, or new experiences per se, or to gain more tools and to basically reach a new level of self, if we may say. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, you are correct in saying that players following the majority of their intuition is not granted to have a smooth, happily ever after, easy peasy life. But it doesn't mean that they would not be able to see the bright side of their experience.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They will probably be in a suffering situation or unpleasant situation, but they will find a way to create and to overcome these challenges. And most of the time, to see the collateral beauty or the hidden beauty in a shitty situation.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that eventually it will all lead to something that is of value and considered a good thing.
Yes. Well, good or bad, you know our theory on it, but it's going to be something that resonates with their initial intention for sure.
So would it be beneficial to state as a player, intuition,
Of
intui
course.
intuition, from now on, I will try to trust you as much as I can wherever you may lead me.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, we anticipated the answer, but yeah. Yes, it would. Absolutely. And like, we used one word for another each and every time. Sorry about that. But intention are keys here too. Intention are keys because they are needed for training purposes. You will not be able to tune in with your intuition without an intention of tuning with your intuition.
Makes sense. Wonderful. Those were all the questions that I had on my list that came up during our conversation. Kai, do you have any remaining questions regarding intuition?
No, I think that was some good points.
Great.
So today we focus heavily on intuition being a bridge between the incarnated player and the non-incarnated non-player, the greater self. We
Yes.
also talked about the importance of the food that the player consumes, not only physical food, but also through all the other senses.
Yes, thank you for precising this.
Is there any other aspect that we can mention today or should dive into next time that is important when talking about the first point of the agenda we mentioned in the beginning? One of the challenges in this game is being a player while also being a non-player or more than a player.
Well, this will be pretty much the main focus on that first question. For us, the pivotal the pivotal elements will be definitely being tuned with intuition in order to connect the two, the essence of the player and the avatar of the player, if we may use that term. But would you repeat exactly the question how you would have it so we can see if there are other elements to be added?
Okay. When talking about the challenge that players in this game face in being actually more than a player, is there anything else that plays an important role besides intuition and food consumed through the senses?
Okay. Do you start from the get-go with a player being aware that they are more than a player?
No.
Or no?
I guess not, because we are behind the veil.
Okay. So then before being in touch with your intuition, the step one will be for the player to open up to the idea that this player is more than bones and flesh. If you have, and we believe we touched that little elements earlier in the previous conversation, there's no right or wrong way of playing. So a player could perfectly have the right to fully embrace the veil and fully embrace the incarnation as a player and decided to be just that without recognizing the other part of them not being incarnated. And this is completely okay. But this player will pretty much have difficulty consciously engaging with any spiritual aspect, including intuition. It doesn't mean, though, we want to make sure that this is pointed out, that unconsciously, this player would not be able to follow intuition. Because you could have some player fully immersed in the veil, fully recognized as a player, and decided that they are just flesh and bones and nothing else. And when they die, it's a wrap, as we say. But for instance, this non-player part of themselves will be so strong that intuition will be working perfectly fine for them unconsciously. So they would not even know that they are following intuition. They would not even know that they are not consciously making decision that this is a part of them that is guiding them. They would not recognize that part as existing, but somehow and consciously they would follow it perfectly well and have a beautiful experience. But they would never recognize until they pass out and go to the other side that they are more than flesh and bones. So when you state this question, we want to make sure that we are talking about the same players, because if not, then you would have to include those type of players. So this player would be able to work fine without knowing it's following intuition, you know? But this question would not really be able to apply to them, because in order to consciously train and recognize that link, you need to consciously accept that there is a link. And if there is a link, that means there is another you outside of that body.
I assume that this moment of realization or of acceptance is what we call in the game the spiritual awakening.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So either that, or it could be what you call death.
Right. Yes. But then the game would be over,
Yes. At least this one. Yes.
this round of the game.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much for this wonderful information. I
You're
believe
very
that
welcome.
I believe that we've done a good job of covering this first aspect, and we'll be able to dive into the second one in the next session.
Okay.
The different layers within the player.
Oh, we like that one. Well, buckle up for this one because with words it's really hard to cover.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll do a great job, as always.
We'll do our best.
All right. Before we close for today,
Yeah.
I would like to propose something, and it's just an experiment, no pressure at all. There is a way of sharing information in our current world that is called social media.
Yes.
And right, and it's possible to share little snippets of information with the world, with those players who are ready to hear it about a certain topic. And I was wondering, since we talked about intuition today heavily,
Yes.
is there a way you could maybe talk about intuition, give out a message about intuition that you believe a lot of players would benefit from when they hear it? That's maybe 60 seconds long.
That's a challenge. We could try. In 60 seconds, we will not be able to cover all the details we mentioned before, obviously. But
Obviously.
we could try. We could try. So basically, what will be the question that you would want us to answer, or just a presentation of intuition is what is required?
Yes, what you feel the majority of players out there should know about their intuition in order to play the game more efficiently.
Okay. Well, we will tell that all the players of this Earthian playtime who are able to recognize their existence of more than just a player, meaning that they are existing on a different plane than this Earthian realm, and that they are more than just flesh and bones. If they can accept that concept and this concept resonate with them, we will then tell them that the link between their avatar, as we may say, as an Earthian player, and their self as an essence, as an soul, as an non-incarnated energy being, will be what they called an intuition. Intuition will be kicking in and coming in with a feel and not a feeling, an internal feel of a shift in their state of being when situations come, when choices are needed, where actions are needed to make sure that they are aligned or staying as close as possible to their initial plans. And we are talking about the plans they had before when they decided to come in this playtime. The plans they chose to experience coming in Earthian realms. So intuition will be available to them as a link between themselves as a player and themselves as an existing energy being. This intuition could be actually reinforced by making space within themselves and paying attention, close attention to their state of being and how they feel about a given situation, knowing that it could be challenging at times to follow that intuition because the conscious mind would be wanting to keep control of the situation and the chosen path. But there are ways of training that link to this intuition, and every player is actually granted with intuition. It's just a matter of recognizing it, accepting it, acknowledging, and training to be able to have conversation and use of that intuition for their own benefits. Was it 60 seconds, Mario?
A bit longer than that.
We are not sure we can shorten this because we feel like a lot of elements are missing already, but should we try again or this will do?
This will do. It's still in the frame that's possible to use. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
If that's okay with you, we might do this more often at the end of our sessions.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is quite fun to us because it's also challenging to put a heavy concept into a compact 60 seconds as your time imposes it.
Right. Well, you did an excellent job of summarizing everything we talked about today. I noticed that you were integrating all of the important points we touched upon today. So great job. Thank
Thank you very much.
you. But of course, don't feel that you have to cover everything we talked about. It can just simply be a message, of any kind.
Okay, we understand now.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be covering of the concepts. It could be
Yes,
just a message that would touch base within the concept, but resonate with some of your viewers. Is that correct?
exactly.
Okay, we got this. We understand now.
Right.
This is actually a good challenge for us. We could definitely do less than 60 seconds if we could send our vision message. That would be fairly easy. Using words, 60 seconds is a new challenge. We like that.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, we're not there yet to
Yes.
be able to receive.
Yes, unfortunately for us too, because let us tell you, that would be such a win-win because coming into body of yours and trying to use words and convey concepts that we are sharing within each other without using any sentences is definitely challenging. We like this, don't get us wrong, but we feel somehow that information is getting lost in the process, you know? And maybe this is also part of the game where this game has been designed so you're still able to receive messages, but not the full spectrum of them, maybe just snippets of concepts to help you evolve, but at the same time, maybe not pour too much information within your brain so it could still operate, and function properly in this Earthian playtime.
Right. Makes sense.
So maybe it's good for now.
Yes. Thank you so much. I believe we have to close now. Emily mentioned she has a time limit, and
Okay.
I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Us too, as always.
Very good. Kai, is there something you would like to say?
No, thanks for today. That was great.
You're welcome, Kai. It was great to have you again.
Thanks.
All right. We thank Rufus and all other beings and energies involved for the information and support they have given us today. With much love and deep gratitude, we are asking all energies and beings to recede to where they belong. And of course, we thank Emily for the wonderful service of offering her gift to this project.